Okay. Hi, everybody. How's it going? All right. Hey, before I dive into today's subject, I have had a huge number of questions about what is actually expected of you before the class is over. One expectation is that you actually read the assignments on Canvas so you would know what the expectations are, but that's okay. We'll put that to the side. The expectations are very simple. Between now and next week, you have to write a PowerPoint presentation about your business, okay? That is a required assignment, all right? And it should be in Oh, by the way, no PDFs. I've said it once, I will say it again. You cannot give me a PDF because I cannot comment easily on a PDF. So give me a PowerPoint or a Google Slides, all right? That will be due next Tuesday before you walk in here. When you walk in here next Tuesday, we will be doing a pitch contest. So I will be giving a class on pitching, and we will have a panel of expert judges who will then help you work on your pitches. But then we will select some winners at the end of all that. You can have slides, but these are elevator pitches. I mean, we're talking about 2 minutes, right, that you're going to have to use to give yourself that pitch. I would say, great, you have to do the slides anyway because they're due, but you need to know how to summarize into one single simple elevator pitch for our exercise next week. The other expectation is that at the end of this class, you will submit, 2 weeks from today, you will submit a business plan, okay? And that needs to be written like a memo, right? And if you look at the assignment, there's a thing called the business plan template, which should be your guide. Please read it before you just send me like a one long giant paragraph about everything that you think about your business, okay? And also, no PDFs, okay? Preferably send me a Word document, but you can send me Word or Google Pages because then I can give you comments embedded. And we comment on every single one of your business plans, okay? I will tell you, you will all get, even though it's pass-fail, every single one of you will get a grade because we're gluttons for punishment, all right? So we will actually read everything that you wrote, we will look at everything you had and tell you how well you really did if we were going to give you more than a pass-fail, okay? Any questions on those expectations before we dive into today? And are those clear? All right, so I want to say this is actually my favorite, and maybe it's because before I became a recovering venture capitalist, I was a recovering communications professional. So fundamentally today, it's my favorite section. This is my favorite topic. We're going to be talking about marketing and communications. Before we dive into this, does anybody know who this is? No? Well, you should. Anne Spencer, great poet, and great leader and great teacher and inspiration. You should actually look her up and read her poetry. But I think what she said is correct. This is not easy work, okay? So we are now in the last section of our entire class, and that last section is now having figured out what our product offering is, having figured out studying the market and all that other stuff, and actually figuring out a business model. Those of you who came to the workshop this weekend, hooray for you, and then built a phased plan on how we're going to roll that out and have a company and all that other stuff. Well, now we need to go get the resources required to make that an actual company, and the only way you get resources is by persuading people, okay? That's going to be the pitch. And that's money. You got to persuade customers, you got to persuade potential employees, and you have to persuade investors, okay? So that's what the next couple sections are about. This is part one of that. And I was just saying to Dani, one of the things that we really passionately agree on is putting the horse before the cart, not the cart before the horse, okay? So it's very tempting when you think about marketing to start doing like, hey, let's do some ads, right? Well, actually, you got to go and figure out what it is you want to say and why you want to say it before you start saying it and spending money on saying it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So fundamentally, the most important part of this is, in the heart of this, is the logic for your business, aka positioning. All right? So how are we going to do that? First, I'm going to go through 2 tools that I use all the time for positioning. I'm going to explain what that is, and then I'm going to introduce these 2 tools to you. All of you need to listen, okay, to this, and think about those tools as they will apply to your business. And you need to do that right now, because after I introduce those, you are all going to figure out the positioning of your company. And you're going to do that with the help of an amazing panel named over here of real practitioners who are going to work with you live in figuring out your positioning, and you're going to report that back. And then we're going to conclude with a set of discussions with those very practitioners about their practice of putting those things into life, both in the strategic work, but then into the marketplace where you actually go convert that kind of positioning into real communications that go out in the marketplace and persuade people and hopefully generate demand. Public service announcement, these XYZs and 1, 2, 3s, and also the ABCs are not of my own invention. I use them all the time. I learned them from some real experts over at Microsoft. Then we'll wrap up. Okay, so positioning is a big deal, okay? I like Geoffrey Moore. Anybody remember Geoffrey Moore? If you don't remember Geoffrey Moore, you should, tell me about Geoffrey Moore. No, wrong Moore. But Moore's law is very important if you're in the technology industry. That Moore's law is about the power of computing doubling or whatever the hell that is, but for cost performance. Yes, Geoffrey Moore. Crossing the chasm. Yay! All right, crossing the chasm. Great product adoption cycle expert. And positioning is figuring out that positioning is the single most important thing you will do to generate demand. Because it's nice to have a product, but eventually people have to buy it. Okay, so that's from Crossing the Chasm. All right, so what do I mean by positioning and all these other words out there? Well, positioning is the logic or case that you want to make. This is a non-emotional case. This is real logical. This is the argument to persuade a customer to choose you. Because remember, nobody has to buy any of your stuff. So, and remember we talked about strategy as a set of decisions. So this really is a strategy for a brand or product to occupy a specific position, right? And I've talked to lots of you about your businesses and office hours, and very often you have a really interesting idea, but you need to know where you fit, right? Very specifically, relative to everybody else. So that's what you need to do with positioning. Positioning is not the same thing as messaging. Hey, John, you can come sit down over here if you want. So it's very tempting to go, hey, I want to go write a bunch of great stuff, but you need to, again, do your first draft, which is for internal use first. So in a way, think of positioning as the longhand. You are not trying to make it beautiful or catchy yet. That informs the shorthand, which is messaging, right? People talk about branding all the time. Hey, I want a brand, and we actually just had a conversation about name, right? I don't think you can judge your names or your brands or your logos or any of that stuff or your website until you've done this hard work of understanding that logic first. Lastly, again, and maybe this is me just working off all this, karmic anger over being misunderstood as a marketing person for so long, but marketing is not the same thing as advertising communications. Advertising and communications are great tools, and it's on SEO and all that other stuff, which I don't even know anymore because I'm out of touch. But and PR, they're great, they're wonderful, but their execution of what frankly is the whole spectrum of figuring out what the product is, the pricing, distribution, all of the components that are going to make that product as it enters the market successful. That's marketing, that's strategy. So if you're how many marketing people here? Marketing, study, people, hey, you guys, panelists, you should raise your freaking hands, okay? Yeah, you have really important jobs, okay? Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Marketing is not the same thing as sales, but it sure helps to drive it in the short and long run. And in fact, you can have a great sales department, but if they're not armed with the right things, they're not going to sell very well. Okay, so interesting. I just tried to clarify some misconceptions potentially about marketing and about positioning and all those other things. You guys did a little survey. It's interesting. 78% of you said that brands are really, really important to you. 63% of you picked really huge brands. So, the position of these really important companies was really important to you regardless of what kind of campaigns they did. Now, interestingly, the stuff that actually influenced your decisions was much more focused on other things than the emotional. So you may love a brand, you may love a campaign, you may think that one brand is powerful, but the things that actually got you to decide were other than that, right? You decided on product features. You decided, yes, on a brand's reputation, but that reputation has something to do with, well, is the thing going to work, right? Or am I going to like what I got? A little bit on price. Interestingly enough, only 3% of you said on promotion. And again, it's often very tempting to use lots of promotions to try to incent somebody to buy something. That's not necessarily what's going to make that happen. So, great. So we got to do this positioning stuff. How do you do it, right? Well, it's going to be, I'm going to just give you these simple XYZs. This is the formula, all right? There are lots and lots of formulas out there. There's lots of tools that people use. This is what I use, okay? So what you need to do is formulate a statement, a logical statement that is the following. Whatever you are the only X that solves Y in the unique way, all right? And every single one of those things is a decision, right? And it's a tough decision. So the first thing is, if we're the only, and only is very important, we're the only one in this category that does this thing for somebody and does it differently than everybody else, okay? So let's talk about each one of these components. This category definition, right, is so anybody, can you think of a category? Why don't you guys raise your hand with your business plan, what businesses are you guys in? What's your business that you're in? You guys over there? You're a publishing company, is that right? Yeah. Yes. Okay, we had a lot of conversation about this already. So this category is a hard decision. Are you a publishing company? Are you a platform? Are you a channel of distribution? A lot of questions about what you're doing, but I can tell you, you have to decide something, right? And you have to be in an actual category, because if you're not in a category, it's going to be really hard to explain what you do. All the other marketing in the world and communications, if people don't know what you are, then it's going to be really hard to get anywhere from there. So one of my, somebody Rich Tong, I remember I used to do advertising at Microsoft, and when he became my boss, he looked at this wall of advertising, which I had spent hundreds of millions of dollars on, and he said, what do you think of this stuff? And I looked at all of it, and it was all mine, and I pretty much said it was all terrible, until I came to one ad, which was very concrete and very specific, and he said, yeah, John, sometimes the best ad says, goat for sale. Because if you have a goat and you want to sell it, you should tell people you have a freaking goat, okay? So if you have a goat, call it a goat. You don't have to say, buy, quadrupedal meat source or something, right? You have a goat, right? So you want to know what you're in. Now, don't ever be in a category that doesn't exist. Be in a category that does exist. It's very tempting to say what we have is entirely new. Isn't it exciting? Isn't it wonderful? I can tell you as an investor, I've seen lots of people, wonderful young people come in excited about their plan and say we have an entirely new category. And I am done listening to them the moment that happens, right? Because if it is new and there's no one else in that category, it must not be very interesting, okay? And if it's brand new and there's no one in it, it's hard to show why you're better than anybody else. Case in point here, very simple one. When the car was first invented, it was not called the automobile. What was it called? Yes, Dylan. Correct, right? It was in the carriage category because people did not buy automobiles. They bought carriages, right? And they just differentiated it by calling it horseless, right? So they didn't invent a new category until it became a new category. The second thing you need to know is, so exactly who is your customer, right? Exactly. And the more specific, the better, right? Because you're not trying to win everybody's heart, right? A little bit. You're trying to make one universe of people extremely passionately in love with you, right? And I don't know about you, but I personally have no interest in having thousands of people passionately in love with me. I just got one, which is great. But I think, like Jeffrey Morris said, if you can become the leader anywhere, if you can become the number one with some small group of people, that's a lot more relevant than being number 16 with a large group of people. So figure out who it is that you can be number one, that you have a really good chance of being number one with, okay? And target them and solve a top 3 priority for them, right? So that's another big decision you got to decide. And it's really hard. I work with a company, you're going to meet Amy Nelson, who runs the Riveter, in a couple weeks, and we've had lots of discussions. It's a network, category discussions, like are they a workspace or are they a working network? Well, what are they? And then who's their target audience? All women? Just women? Women and men? And honestly, we've come to a conclusion it's all about working moms, right? And even better, like this is, by the way, none of this is for public consumption, right? This is not something you say externally, but you make a decision like, literally, if I can make this one universe really happy, that'll be good. So in that case, we're going, not even that, it's like working moms the moment they find out they're pregnant. Because if we can be there for them that second, wow, they're going to be happy and do something really powerful that for them, they'll be really happy. And then we can gradually go and be relevant to lots of other people. And lastly, be unique in some way. You got to be different in a way that is relevant to that target audience. You should be proud of whatever that differentiation is, because you need to be the only, remember, but be honest, right? So you remember our 3 C's. When you look at your own competencies, you're not good at everything. So hopefully figure out the thing you're really good at, make sure that's what makes you different, and make sure that that thing that you're different at is relevant to your target audience. So that's the XYZs. Questions on that so far? Yes?
So when you find your one very specific differentiation or one very specific target, like you were talking about the example with working mothers, would you still, like, with the company you're talking about, do they still market it generally?
So I think we're not there yet. Remember, it's sort of horse before the cart. We don't want to do that. We don't want to put the cart before the horse. We're going to go, who exactly, right? It's the litmus test. If our efforts and our communications and our product are not extremely relevant, and in fact, if we can't be the only one for that universe, then we probably are going to fail. So our communications, everything else, we should be against that litmus test. We may make them so that they resonate with other people, right? And we may not say, just for working mothers, right? But we need to know that's the case, right? And again, difference between positioning and messaging, right? Okay, so then how do you make it stick? So good communications, I think, fundamentally, good campaigns, they have 3 fundamental qualities that are really important. Anybody know Jack Kerouac? Yes. All right. See, you and I, baby. We're the 2 oldest people in the room. We know what's going on. All right. Good. All right. Jack Kerouac, On the Road, Beat Generation, really cool. I think he has a really good point. Be simple. Okay. So there's no effective communications are complicated. So you got to be simple. Simplicity is the first one. The second thing, people know this guy? Come on. Please, yeah. I mean, thank you. Boldness, be my friend, right? So you have to grab people's attention in some way, shape, or form. There may be different sources. Hopefully, the source of that boldness is something important, not just random, like, I don't know, you've seen some of these beer ads where it's just, let's beat you over the head with something. I mean, in the end, I don't know if that works, but you got to break through in some way, because especially now, because there's so much out there, right? That's competing for people's attention. And then the last thing is repetition, okay? So if you can figure out a simple, very simple message, if you can make sure that that message is different enough for people and interesting enough for people to pay attention to it, and then don't mess with it. Repeat it over and over and over and over again, okay? I remember I worked for American Express. People heard of that thing, right? It's a credit card company, all that. So when I first started, they had a slogan. It was called, "Don't leave home without it." This is great. This is terrific. And then the marketing people got bored, and they hired an agency, and they changed it to something random, and everyone was confused. Like, the entire card member base was like, well, but we thought it was all about don't leave home without it, because that made sense. I worked at Microsoft. Do you remember? It was like making it easier. It was great. And it makes sense, not easy, but easier. And everybody was like, okay, well, that sounds fair, you know. And then we hired an agency that was much cooler than we were, because we wanted to be cool. I did not. And they decided to have a new tagline called, "Where do you want to go today?" Now, I'm sorry, I'm biased because I voted against that, but I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Okay, why did we give up on this thing? It was just freaking awesome because we wanted to be cool. So don't do that. Pick the one thing, repeat it over and over again. You will be tired of it way earlier than your target audience. Okay, I got to move quickly because we got a lot to do here. So Again, simplicity, consistency, and repetition. Consistency. Sorry, I said the boldness is my word for today. Remember boldness. I'm inconsistent in the way I talk about consistency. Okay, sweat the details. They matter. So if you're going to go out and communicate, read everything, proofread everything, read it aloud. That's the only way to proofread. And then you also have to believe what you say because people can detect authenticity. All right. So I have a formula for how to do that well. And it's called the 1, 2, 3s. Please interrupt me whenever you have this, but this too is my litmus test for getting an effective platform for communicating your stuff. So 1 is the rule of 1. You should have 1 promise, okay? Just 1. And underneath that, 1 offer, 1 call to action, etc. But you should have 1 promise. Hopefully, if you do your job right, that promise combines 2 things that don't normally go together. So that's the rule of 2, or oxymoron, okay, or paradox. And that's cake and eat it 2, power made easy, taste great, less filling. You know, it's like I get to have 2 things that normally don't come together. And then the last one is you're going to have to support. If you make this big promise and claim, you need to support it with something. Well, don't support it. It's super tempting, especially for technical audiences, to say we have 5,000 features that we think are just great. And we think a really good communication is listing every single one of them, all right, in no particular order. Well, that is not going to work, okay, because I don't know about you, but I can't remember more than 3 things. So you need to have 3 sets of benefits, 3 sets of features, 3 sets of proof points, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later, but the most important thing is also to remember you're thinking about this in the mind of your customer, not in your mind. Just because you think something's cool is irrelevant. What does it do? How is someone's life better because of that? Pick 3. And then I have a little ancillary rule here called awesome, awesome, not screwed up. So that's a litmus test. If you are going to have 3 categories of benefits, they should follow this pattern, which is something that's motivating, like, wow, that's really cool, I want that. Oh, another thing that's really cool that I really want. And then human nature, as soon as I have those 2 feelings, I'm going to go, but there's probably a problem. So anticipate the most likely problem. Don't be screwed up, okay? I'm going to give an example here, which is when my wife was pregnant with our first child, we needed a new car. So we bought a Volvo 850 turbo station wagon, the fastest production station wagon ever made, all right? Now, it was a station wagon, by the way, so it had a category, and it was for Seattleite young parents who happen to have a male in the family who's crazy about cars, right? So it actually re-architected Volvo to become a company that could be crazy about cars. It's very simple. It was fast, it was luxurious, but it was also safe because the number 1 objection was safety. So it, 0 to 60 like that, leather all over the place because it wasn't like an old Volvo that was horrible. And you had like roll bars and more airbags than anybody, okay? So those are the 1, 2, 3s. Let's give you a few examples. So one example I really love, and it's a case study I use all the time. Volkswagen was a boring company. That was a weird company in the automotive sector. And this is what it was. So originally, it was in the 1950s, it was a low-cost, reliable car for oddballs. Is that a compelling positioning? I don't think so, okay? So they realized, but that's what they kind of had, right? I mean, they had these cars that were really hard. It was a great, beautiful, fun car, but you could barely get it up a hill, okay? So weirdos drove that car. Meanwhile, in the 1990s, another German car manufacturer came out called BMW that said, it's either this or a used Corolla, don't be a peasant, okay? So they are targeting a very different universe of people. They're saying, you're cool, you need a really cool car, right? And you need a great German engineered car. So VW said, okay, this is an opportunity for us to reposition ourselves. And what they did was, remember the plays? Anybody remember the 5 plays that we talked about? Drag race, best of both, stealth. So this is a best of both play. Their positioning was, we make the only high performance cars that normal, but cool, people can afford, okay? So they're saying, we're picking a segment, a category. We are going to be in the high performance category. We could decide we're going to compete with the economy cars, but let's not do that, right? Because we actually are, 1, we're not as cheap as the economy cars, and 2, we're actually better than them. And our target is kind of everybody, but not really everybody. It's people who like to drive. And then they enjoy driving as much as the high-priced alternatives. So that's their differentiation, is it's actually really fun to drive car, and at the same time, it's rule of tool, right? Super fun to drive and just as affordable as the low end. And they pulled that off with German engineering for everybody is their basic promise, right? Affordable plus high performance is their paradox. And then here's their three. So one is performance. Oh, and you can see here, if you were really slow in a past life, you come back as something faster. So this is communication that's being derived from their positioning, okay? It only feels like you're flying, okay? Don't drive upside down it's also fun, right? So they had another category, so another benefit. And then the last one is affordability, how to look at a luxury car. It's really a lot more than what you pay for, than the price tag. It's what's inside it that makes it a luxury car. So that was really turning affordability on its head. Now that's where it is today. Now I did want to say one other thing. But they did something brilliant, right? People are very tempted about taglines. They didn't do that tagline until they did all that other work, and they came up with a tagline called Drivers Wanted. It's a perfect derivation it's an invitation to people who want to drive, right? And that was a great tagline, but none of that could have happened unless they did all this other work. Here's another little, you get these on Alaska Airlines airplane flights. So I just like their positioning. It's Europe's favorite cookie with coffee. So cookies are obviously a huge, gigantic category. So they basically who are we? We're going to have you be, it's people who aspire to be European. So we're going to do that. And it's a cookie that's good with coffee. So we're not everybody, we're just coffee cookies, right? And we're definitely claiming to be the favorite, but among Euro trash, right? So here's a few other quick examples before we hand it back over to you. So remember, rule of one, have one big promise, right? I just saw this and I thought, wow, that is a good promise. The most stuff, misspelled, but hey, you get this Oreo. Most cream ever, right? Now, we were talking about this shoes. I mean, the most comfortable shoes in the world, that's one promise. May or may not be true, but it was enough to get me to buy them, okay? Now, this also works in politics, okay? In Australia, this was this woman who joined the parliament. This was her campaign, Keep the Bastards Honest. Now, that is compelling. By the way, it's simple, it's bold, and boy, did she repeat it. Hope, he didn't even come up with that, right? It was made for him, just like It's the Economy, Stupid was made up for Bill Clinton. But that simple, singular message, you can't get much more simple than that. That did all the things that you want to see in a rule of one. I mean, a rule of one, that's one word. Some things for the rule of oxymoron here. Power made easy. So this revolutionized the PC database business. Before, databases were super complicated, and you had to have a PhD to just use one. So this was power made easy. We crushed them. And then, this is nutritious, have a delicious cookie that's also nutritious. So you get to have those two things together. This is bringing it all together in the 1, 2, 3s. I love this one. I won't tell you why I was down there. This is Aladdin bail bonds. Great promise. We get you out. I mean, come on, talk about relevance to their target audience, okay? And then they bring together three things that don't normally go together. They're efficient, I want that. They're knowledgeable, that's really good, I'm excited about that. And they don't treat me like a criminal. Sorry. Okay, so those are the ABCs and the XYZs. Before I go on to a little extra credit, any questions at all about the ABCs and XYZs? Because you are going to apply them, the XYZs and 1, 2, 3s, you're going to apply them to your business. Any questions about them? Are you overwhelmed by my barrage of stuff? Okay, good. Well, we're going to go to that. A little extra credit. There's another rule, an ancillary rule I'm going to go through quickly. It's called P is greater than B is greater than F. So again, as I said, in many companies, because you love them, you built the damn thing, whatever it is, you're in love with the features, right? These are the things that you have, right? And you want to write about them because you have them. And in fact, when you first get started, they're kind of all you have, but they're not very important, right? What's important is what benefit is derived by your customer from that feature, okay? So Is their life made easier because in some way? If so, how? Or more fun or better? Know what those benefits are, okay? But even more important than that is proof that your claim of a benefit is true. Because this just means I don't have to take your word for it, right? Because people will doubt you, right? I know you're all wonderfully sincere, but if you're talking to people you don't really know, they would like proof and evidence, and this is a job you're going to have all the time, is gathering more and more proof. I love this case in point, so I don't know why I'm in this world here of injury lawyers and all this other stuff, but over 100 million recovered for our clients, that's proof, right? That's like, okay, it's not just telling you we're wonderful and we have a bunch of features of lawyers with this many years of experience and went to Harvard or the law firm down the street, or that we have a certain set of benefits. No, they're making a very concrete evidence that it works, right? Okay, let's see what else I got in here. Oh, so I'm just going to say there's different kinds of proof. The best proof is being number one. The next best proof is being number one in a category like, for example, choosy mothers choose Jif, okay? So if you're the number one, I mean, it was like Marlboro was the number one cigarette smoked by doctors, you know? They weren't the number one selling cigarette originally, but they were the number one for doctors, which was a relevant target audience for you if you wanted to feel healthy about dying. And then what's interesting, I just wanted to highlight for you guys, many of you said what's critical for you and helped you decide was relying on some third-party information, some experts who've endorsed a product rather than just you, okay? Or rather than just the company who's made the product claiming these things. Okay, so that's sort of the quick summary, and what I would now like you to do is work with our wonderful teams that I'm going to introduce now. Kaitlyn, raise your hand. So Kaitlyn's co-founder of Rainfactory, which is an agency here that does all kinds of cool stuff. Do you want to say something quickly about yourself?
We are the only digital marketing agency for startups that focuses on new product launches and crowdfunding.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Dani, so you've heard me talk about TomboyX. Dani's the head of marketing. You want to say a few words?
Yeah, I guess our XYZs, we're an underwear company, and we focus primarily our target audience LGBTQ+, and but we also have many sorority girls that love to wear too, which is great. And I think we're differentiated because we only work with women-owned factories, and all of our product is sustainable and resourced accordingly.
All right.
That's TomboyX.
John? Did I jump queue? Oh, Nancy. Hi, Nancy. You want to say a few words about yourself? So you met Jim. Nancy's the president, but she's also had a bunch of Mason, but she's also had a bunch of previous experience that is particularly relevant here. So you want to say a word or two?
Yeah. So Mason, you guys heard the other week that we help people build smart product lines. Before that, I was at Facebook for about 5 years. I also worked on Oculus in most of my time there, so worked on virtual reality.
Excellent. John. So John and I have known each other for longer than either of us would like to admit. John, you want to talk about yourself very briefly?
Sure, yeah.
These are your worksheets.
I've done product marketing, so a lot of the things that John's talking about here, how do you position your product for a particular audience. I've done that with the very first version of the Office, back when we were competing with products that are now no longer in existence, Note 1, 2, 3, and they're perfect.
It's the only good ad I did. Sorry.
I actually launched the very first version of the Microsoft Xbox, and so we can talk about that in terms of targeting users, going after all gamers, and going after very specific targeted set of gamers with a very specific audience to differentiate ourselves versus some of the Nintendo. And after I left Microsoft, I spent about 10 years in a variety of other technology companies, most of them startups. At the mothership.
All right. Zach. Zach founded and runs the coolest social agency in Seattle. So do you want to say anything more about yourself?
Sure, yeah. When we first started, it's kind of an interesting exercise in the evolution of positioning. When we first started, we were the only agency focused on social media that actually walked and talked about the target audience that people were trying to reach on social media, as opposed to like other businesses like consultants. But a lot of other people kind of entered the bar in South Lake Union, and we are the only dive bar in South Lake Union that actually has good tasting cocktails.
And it is good. It's called the Gold Bar, and you should go there. All right, so here's what you're going to do now. These wonderful people are going to wander around in different parts of the audience, and they're going to work with you on getting your XYZs, okay? And for extra credit, if you have time, try to refine some of that into a set of 1, 2, 3s. Any questions? And that's what your little sheets are about. They're sort of a cheat sheet to do that. So hopefully you are sitting with your teams, which seems like that would be a logical thing to do. And then what we will do is have you work for, let's say, 20 minutes on this. And then we'll report out, kind of on a shout-out basis. And then we'll have a panel discussion with our experts about anything you want to talk about, but mainly about this marketing writ large. Okay? Ready? Start your engines. Good. Oh, yeah. Wait, one other thing. Just given that we're all working now, pass these out. There are a variety of treats now for everyone to share and pass them around. Okay, 1 minute warning. 1 minute warning. So we have to, okay. Hey, panelists, start making your way down, please. Where did the panelists go? I know it's hard to break free, but come.
Are they gonna?
Yeah, I don't think we have to do that.
Okay.
I can just stand up and yell.
Okay.
Nancy. All right. Who wants to volunteer and please, you guys sit down here now because we're going to, and actually, why don't you guys point at somebody that you think should tell us their ABCs? Or XYZs, sorry. And just small instructions, sit by your name. It's less confusing. Okay. Anybody want to volunteer, or our guys are going to pick on you? Go ahead and sit down. Yeah. Oh, come on, you got to volunteer. Okay, Dylan. Did everybody get a snack that wanted one? Good. All right, Dylan, go.
From a company White Chocolate, spicy chocolate. We are the only everyday chocolate bar with culinary adventures out there that combines the smooth richness of chocolate with the bold excitement of hot spices. We believe that chocolate doesn't have to be boring. That's why we made a spicy chocolate that's sweet enough to snack on. And it is satisfying, it's surprising, and it's snackable.
Satisfying, surprising, and snackable. I like alliteration. All right, who's next? You guys look like you're hiding a little bit. So you're turning your back to us. So that's a bad sign. So we're picking on you now. What's your XYZs?
Yeah. So, putting on the spot.
Yep.
The category we're in is like a software wizard. Our target customer is cities without ADA plans.
Okay.
And then our differentiation is that we're web-based and experts at a lower cost.
All right. So you said three things.
Oh,
Web-based, expert, and lower cost.
our awesome, not screwed up is that, web-based planning, personal in-house ownership, and not screwed up.
All right. Anybody want to comment or give them any feedback or input?
I was confused a little bit by the category of software wizard. When I think, category is like, I don't know if I've ever gone out looking for a software wizard.
So we talked to John a lot about this. We basically, the way I describe
Uh-oh.
also this John, we basically describe ourselves as like TurboTax for planning.
For city planning.
Yeah, for ADA.
Okay.
So are you just a software tool?
That's what I thought.
'Cause I agree with you. Like, I've never bought a wizard. I have the box set of the Lord of the Rings, but yeah, but what is TurboTax? It's not a wizard.
It's a financial planning software.
Yeah.
And there's city planning software.
Yeah. So I mean, again, this is not for public. This is just for you to get it right. You are the only city planning software tool that, no.
Does all that, yeah.
Yeah.
So is that not a wizard? We struggled to.
Great. You could use that as a descriptor, which is we're the only one of those, whatever those that is, that has a wizard, that is wizardy, right? That, yeah.
I would click on that.
But that's a message. That's not your category, right? We're the only city planning software tool that works like a wizard,
So
right?
is software too broad of a category?
I think it is.
But I've said city planning software tool for
Okay.
ADA concerned cities, city planners, right?
Of less than 100,000 people, right? Small to medium, right?
Well, it's okay to start, right? You'll grow and you'll have a new positioning for the new thing, whatever that is. Okay.
Okay, so we have our category.
All right. Who else? Guys, you can pick on somebody. I don't have to be the only one who picks on
Yeah, I
somebody.
like the shoe duo.
Okay, shoe duo. Shoe people. Yes, in the way back. And then you guys are excited, so you get to go next, okay?
So our category is leather shoes. Our target customer is the fashion conscious, busy working male. And our differentiation is the most comfortable customized shoe. Like fits you like a sock.
Getting there.
And then one main promise is it's you or you're working. And,
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yep, you're 2 and you're 3.
the two attributes are affordable luxury or aspirational luxury. And the three awesome not screwed up is handcrafted, premium, but comfortable.
So one question I have is, what's the benefit of handcrafted as a feature? So it may be a fine feature to talk about, but what's the benefit that handcrafted gives me? So I'm just saying you want to chew on that. And I guess one feedback I have is that I think this bespoke, like when you said for you, somehow in all the other wording you had, I'm missing, I kind of want to bring that way up to my bias is, if you can really pull it off in a way that's affordable and it is truly entirely unique to me, that could be compelling, right?
Yeah.
So,
How are you customizing?
yeah.
How are you customizing? You mentioned you're customizing the shoe. So like I think maybe just talking about how it feels custom to the person is important.
Okay. Other comments from you guys? All right.
The
Yeah.
comfortable as a sock is actually a very interesting sort of metaphor because I spend a lot of time just hanging out in my socks and they're incredible.
That is really not bad. Fits you like a sock. Okay, you guys, you were excited. You wanted to say something, so please let's give us your XYZs and 1, 2, 3s.
Arogya is the only washing and drying mechanism that provides a non-electric solution for households in low-resource areas to clean your dirty clothing in a low-cost way.
Say that again. I was not listening to you at all.
Arogya is the only washing and drying mechanism that provides a non-electric solution for households in low-resource areas to clean your dirty clothing in a low-cost way.
I like the swagger that is added. Like, I want this.
Why did you not just go with a washing machine as the category or a non-electric washing machine?
We included washing and drying because drying is one of the largest differentiations in our target area. Washing solutions in our target, which is mostly Indian households or low resource areas, many people already have the option of being able to go outside or hire someone to actually wash their clothing. But with drying, it's just left to the sun for your clothing. And there's nothing you can do when it's cloudy outside or if you're keeping your stuff inside.
But this does dry your clothes, yes?
This doesn't dry.
So what? I mean, just back to the category. Like, could you just say it's the only integrated washer dryer that does blah de blah? Because there are, by the way, there is a category called washer dryers. You can buy one. They don't work, but you can buy one. If you live in Europe, they have them all over the place, and then you walk around with moist clothes. Yeah.
We really want to emphasize it as a drying component. So how would you recommend us do that? Could we just say integrated washer?
Washer dryer as a category. Sorry, you're a device person.
Well, I've seen a couple of Kickstarters come through for like portable travel washer dryers, right? That are non-electric solutions. A lot of them coming out of Asia, where it's super common, like you said, in India. So I would test, and don't, just take this as an idea, but test calling it the only portable washer that for your, for busy modern people without access to electricity, that also dries. You know what I mean? Like, put the also drying at the end. I also kind of have something against calling something affordable. It could just be affordable. Like, I would just see the price later. But again, it's something to chew on.
But I'd make, on that last point though, I'd make a distinction between positioning and messaging, right? Right now, if affordability is really important to your story,
Yeah.
you may not, how you decide to use it in your messaging, I just want to make sure your argument is correct, right? Like longhand, and then we can worry about okay, I don't need to say that. I just say $5.99, and that'll take care of it. But I do want them to know what they're betting on, right? Like,
Makes sense.
you only get to bet on 3 things, and one should be awesome, another should be awesome, and the last one should be not screwed up. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Who's next? Yes.
We are the only pedestrian safety device company for municipalities and private campuses who provide the safest and most economical solution for pedestrian safety.
And what are your 1, 2, 3s?
1 is we keep pedestrians safe. 2 is we are more safer and lower lifetime. We have a much lower lifetime cost than the competition. And our 3s are much safer, lower lifetime cost, and we're aesthetically pleasing.
Okay, so comments from you guys.
It's kind of missing what it is. Like, is it a device? Is it a wearable? Is it
Yeah, it's a pedestrian safety device.
So I guess, can I just say, I'm even more it's the only crosswalk, right? Like, maybe your target audience knows this more, but I'm kind of
Yeah.
I want to use simple.
That was when you said pedestrian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to go, it's the world's safest crosswalk, right?
Okay.
That sounds cool. But I'm not, you just know the category.
Yeah, it's something you wore or something. I first described it.
And I want to make another comment, which is, I think for your purposes, there's 2 different levels at which you can position. You can position yourself as a company, and you can position your offering. And I think almost every one of you needs to be positioning your offering and worrying about the company later, right? Because at someday, you may be a big company that has 57 offerings, but to start with, there's no difference between your company and your offering. So your category is the category in which you are making an offering, right? So Office was, office productivity software. Microsoft was just general software company, right? So right now, don't focus on the company, focus on the offering, all right?
And to that point, just when the crosswalk thing, everybody sort of knows what a crosswalk was.
Yeah.
Somebody brought up the Intuit example of, TurboTax, which is owned by Intuit. When they launched a long time ago with this money management software, Scott Cook, who was the CEO at the time, said, "My biggest competition is a pencil and a calculator." That is who my competition is, not Microsoft's money product. It's somebody else balancing their checkbook with a pencil and a calculator. So when you're thinking about what your sort of pedestrian device is, it's a better crosswalk. That's a brilliant approach.
All right, who else? And then we're going to open up to questions to our esteemed guests. How about, you seem to, go ahead, you're jamming on this whole thing. You found one customer. So, yeah.
Okay, I may have come up with a fun new name, but let's go with the Plantform for now. So we're the Plantform, and we're going to be the only trade/marketplace app that targets plant hobbyists, both indoor and outdoor, and simplifies transactions and tracking your hobby as a whole. And so our one promise is to make growing your plant hobby a little bit easier. And two attributes that we combine for that is to get more plants for less, basically. And our buckets are more selection with better price, with plant-specific terms. and including user accountability.
So I was given a piece of advice, which is if you have comments, please speak into the mic.
So question, I have a brown thumb, not a green thumb. Is more plants better to somebody that cares about plants, or I mean, is that the sort of thing that you're looking for, is more green, or are you looking for better or something? Just what matters to somebody who's a green thumb?
More is better. More better plants. Basically, a lot of people, when they get hooked in the hobby, they just don't stop collecting.
So I had a reaction which is almost, in some of your cases, I almost feel like, gee, you want to start with the 3s and work back up, because it's like it kind of helps you use your imagination. And when I was listening to this, I was like, more interesting, and easier to get plants, right? So it's like to me, the 3s then yield all the other stuff in a way, and so anyway, I was just thinking, wow, and that could even be an interesting promise, right? More better plants, easier, right? That, you know what I'm saying? Is like, or more interesting plants, but I don't know how to do the grammar on that, the punctuation, but okay, other comments? Then I would like to open it to the floor. I have questions that they told me about to ask you, but then we can also have the floor do that. So anybody want to volunteer? We have one last volunteer, come on. You guys way in the back. Because you're way in the back, you need to get called on, okay? So, and you have to stand up and yell, okay? Because remember, clear communications are simple and bold, too. Okay.
Sure. So we're a property management company that helps the 9-to-5 worker invest in real estate. We provide our quality service at a low cost.
Okay, so your category is what again?
Property management.
So you're the only property manager that makes it easy for the 9-to-5 worker.
Yeah, so as a 9-to-5 worker, you can't always field calls from your tenants, so we collect those calls for you. And we also provide at a low cost to do this service.
Okay, anybody have comments?
So the
So
target
our differentiation is that we're doing it at a low cost.
question, your target audience is already real estate owners, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When you first talked, I thought you were talking about people that are interested in getting into real estate or property management. Okay,
So there's one thing I think that you need to emphasize a little more is your full serviceness, right? So I think the big benefit is like your target audience is busy, okay? So they're too busy to actually really pay attention to their real estate investment. So you do it for them. So your promise is we will watch over your real estate investment because you don't have any time. And we'll do all of it for you, and we'll do it for cheap. Something like that, okay? All right. Thank you for standing up and doing that. All right. So anybody have questions for our esteemed marketing our marketing people, or I can start asking them? Oh, come on. Yeah, go ahead.
What are some things that have not gone well during your time doing marketing? And what did you take away?
I have one.
Okay, hand the mic over.
Yeah. So when I joined Oculus, which is a division of Facebook, and we sell virtual reality headsets, our very first consumer headset was really plagued by delays. So that it's a headset, and there's 2 controllers. You use the controllers to do things in the games, to see your hands, to do all kinds of cool stuff. The problem was the headset came out, and then the controllers for the very first consumer thing was delayed by like 6 or 7 months. And it was a terrible experience for consumers. They just paid $800. They had already paid for it. They were like, where is my stuff? I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. On the other side, developers of apps and games and services were freaking out because they, expected to make revenue much earlier by selling their apps. Now people couldn't completely use them. So it became a difficult marketing challenge to balance, like, hey, you should still buy this $800 thing, but like you won't actually get the whole package till we don't know when, right? Like we also couldn't promise a date. I think a lot of this was remedied somewhat by just trying to be as communicative and on like setting expectations as frequently as possible. It was like ongoing with the development community, ongoing with people who bought devices to say like, hey, this is the newest thing we know. And there was a term that we used a lot called a make good, which was, given these delays and issues, that sort of thing, maybe we would give them credit or early access to something. Or are there other stopgap ways we can make use of the hardware while the controllers are still being developed? So it was pretty daunting and scary and like tough from a branding and marketing perspective, but there's also another one where our second device used Samsung phones and they started catching on fire, and we were like worried about them blowing up on people's faces. That was like a real thing. Yeah,
it's a feature. We're the only.
It's a real thing on a Saturday morning. We're like writing emails and translating them and making sure our customers were aware. So a lot of these things. The biggest thing I learned from scenarios that are like somewhat out of marketing's control, right? Like, we didn't realize this was going to happen, is being honest, like to the point, getting on top of it as fast as possible before letting someone else drive the narrative and some other press person get the leak and like talk about it in a way you don't want it to be expressed.
I'll speak to an example. So I was working for this big data startup, and we were very, very early in sort of the evolution, and we didn't have a lot of customers, and so we tried taking our product, which was a giant set of data around products and their prices in the internet, and we exposed it through a public API and did some marketing targeting developers thinking, hey, they're going to come in here, they're going to fall in love with this data, they're going to build some really cool things, and they'll start, basically that'll start the flywheel going, and they'll want to keep coming back, and ultimately we can charge them. And I was running marketing.
You heard the flywheel thing, right? So ultimately we can charge them.
So we came into this thinking, great, we'll just drive users. And so I was running the marketing, and this was something we put together really quickly, called it an MVP, in case you don't know what that is, the minimum viable product. It sort of had just enough information for it to kind of get out there. And we were incredibly successful at getting people to come in, sign up for the API, access the API, and we were seeing, wow, users are coming in week after week. It's growing, it's doubling, it's tripling, fantastic. The problem as we started to dig into the data is that they were going in, playing around with the data, and then never coming back because we had a value proposition problem. There wasn't actually anything of value for the developers to do there. So we did a great job with our marketing and getting them to come to it, but they're sort of like, oh, wow, you're selling cupcakes that taste like dirt or something. It's just not a very good product. And so what I would say is, you have to have that product market fit. The customer that you're going after, in this case developers, actually has to get some benefit from what it is that you're giving to them. Even if it's free, it still has to have value.
So I just want to follow up, because there was a question here, question number 11, that said, can good marketing sell a bad product? So I'm not sure any of you wants to admit to anything here, but I thought I'd put the question out there for anybody who wants to respond to that.
Well, we do have a saying in agency land. It's you can't polish a turd.
Thank you for that. Yeah, awesome. I really, that's terrific. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, other questions, or I have a few to ask. Oh, come on, guys. Yes. Wait, Dylan, I'm going to wait. We've got somebody back there. You already, yes, go. So why the hell do you need a marketing person if you have a good product? And if so, when? Right?
So I have a quick clarification question. And is it a physical product that you're talking about, that you're selling, or is it like a software or a service?
Either or.
So, I mean, rule of thumb is as soon as you have like a photographable prototype that can be tossed up on a quick website and maybe put in a couple of Facebook ads. Do you guys talk to Pioneer Square Labs guy yet? Okay. So as soon as you have a looks like and separate from your works like, but promises from your supply chain that works like, will look like, the looks like. Make sure you get that first. Then you need to engage your marketing team because you need to know what features to put into it and what features need to be left on the cutting room floor because of affordability concerns, right? So it's like build up as many features to satisfy your market's needs while cutting as many features to keep the costs low so that they still want it. So, I mean, start it before you even start selling. And heck, crowdfund it so that you can sell it before you even produce it. But, yeah.
Dani, do you want to say anything about when to start marketing?
Yeah, I actually think that marketing teams have a lot of research and insights that you can leverage to actually develop your product even further. Some of the most successful relationships I've had with my teams have been because the marketing team lended some incredible data and some incredible insights sharing that changed how the product was actually developed. So the earlier you can get your marketing team involved, the better. It should not be an afterthought.
I guess I want to add one other thing. Remember, marketing is not the same thing as buying advertising, right? So the work we just did right here was marketing, okay? It's even being able to articulate your story to somebody is marketing, right? So you have to do that, and engineers are usually bad at it, I just want to say, because they fall in love with their product, so they need to get some people who know how to talk to real humans.
Fashion designers are too.
I believe you, right? So, because they're too passionate about their thing. So, sorry, okay. I'm going to pick a question here. So, what is the best campaign, most successful campaign, either that you were a part of or that you've ever seen?
Just Do It, Nike, that I've ever seen.
Okay. What about that you've been a part of? And why?
Men's Fashion Week in New York City for
Say
Amazon.
say this last one. What was that?
Men's Fashion Week, launching that for Amazon in New York City. It was the first time Amazon ever did anything outside of digital and going with taxi toppers in New York City and subway signs and kind of guerrilla. It posed amazing results that the company never thought we would be able to see because we're so reliant on our data and our automation.
So you took a risk and did something that wasn't just data-driven, but was reach and different.
It was data-driven. It was founded in data, but there's an element of human intelligence that you can't deny. So when you scale marketing a lot and you automate everything, you can kind of miss some of that goodness, that healthy interaction in a human level.
Excellent.
And I think Just Do It did kind of that too.
Yeah.
So I'll say, thinking about marketing less about it as a verb and it's doing activity. There's a company called HubSpot out of I can't remember if it started in Boston, but basically it was a marketing technology set of software. And what I loved about their approach to marketing is they were really clear on who their target audience was. And they just kept feeding that audience with more and more ideas that would strengthen the value of their platform. They were going up against bigger competitors at the time, but if you looked at the content that they created and the pipeline of value that they kept delivering, it would be like, hey, whether I'm using HubSpot or not, I'm going there to find out about what's going on in content marketing. And they held conferences around the category of content marketing, and they were just sort of omnipresent in that area, and then they supported that, and they added more to their offering to make it such that, hey, wow, these guys really understand content marketing and what it looks like and how it works and how it's great for B2B businesses. And oh my gosh, they've actually got some good features and capabilities too, by the way. Maybe I'll actually try them out. And I thought their approach was so different than, hey, we've got this great product, I'm going to put together an ad and just wait for people to come buy it. No. They embraced the mindset for people that were struggling, particularly to reach business-to-business customers, on how do I get people to buy from them.
Other comments on either campaigns or efforts you love or you did that you love?
So The highest raised crowdfunding campaign that my team ever ran was just in this last year. We launched the Philips PicoPix Max projector. They did $6 million in 2 months on Indiegogo. And the major success factor was like having the Philips brand behind it. Like between us in this room, it was licensed from Philips, so they had an exclusive license to be their projector unit. Right, but the team themselves were really small and really scrappy inside of that kind of bigger brand, and so we were simultaneously trying to like coach these engineers in how to really put the features first as the main selling factor. It was like the most powerful 4K projector that fits in your pocket.
That's nice.
Yeah.
See, good positioning.
Yeah, so it was the most powerful pocket-sized projector. And they just launched an even smaller one, but it's not as powerful, so it still gets to keep that claim. But yeah, it was like on one end trying to make it look professional, and on the other end, like assuaging the crowdfunding community that this is, you know, an early stage product, and we do need the pre-orders to bring it to market. So it was a very delicate balance in the world of product launching.
And sounds like it was successful.
It was the most, yeah, it was the next highest one we've ever had was like 3 million. So.
Wow.
I have a couple on the Facebook and Oculus side. It's always really hard and fun to work on marketing something that's hard to describe or just show in static ad. Like showing what VR looks like is difficult because you have to put a headset on someone's face. So how do you convey that in video and media? It's super hard, and so we kind of worked with a lot of different styles to do what we ended up calling mixed reality, where you merge what someone sees in the headset, blend it with their actual body and their body language. And we realized one way to show this was to actually not cast actors in our commercials and our shoots, but to cast dancers.
Wow.
Because their movements looked so fluid when they had the headset on. They didn't look stupid, you know, like, which I look when I'm wearing it. You know, they looked amazing. Like we had this dancer who could do this like amazing back bend. She made our slogan for our most recent campaign was called Defy Reality, and that is what we wanted to convey. The other one was, I didn't work on this, but it was for a Facebook portal, which is like a video calling device thing. It's like basically better video calling than FaceTime on a thing that you put in your house. Also kind of hard to describe and show, and they did a really good video spot where it shows it's all about conveying, making people feel closer. So all the ads, it'd be like 2 billboards in 2 different places, but like a balloon or something connecting them, and they would show video calls between 2 people. They tried to make it really inclusive. They showed 2 people signing to each other over a video call, which was really powerful and like very emotional. Very interesting. The most recent spots have been more like celebrity oriented, so it's like a spot with Kim K and J-Lo like working out with their spouses. Like I don't know. It's also showing the closeness that they maintain through it. I don't know, but those are some fun campaigns that made the most out of a pretty difficult marketing challenge.
A couple of years ago, MailChimp came out with a campaign that they just went everywhere in the subways and on billboards and stuff. And it's kind of interesting to talk to you guys about this because it wasn't focused on like their selling proposition or what they did, because they already they're already synonymous with a mailing like an email platform, right? What they were looking at that point, they're the market leader. They're focusing on becoming your preferred brand, right? So they want to be witty. They want to kind of convince you that they speak. They have this personality that you can relate to, and that you'd feel good about yourself for buying them, right? And so it was a campaign that was really fun and really playful. Didn't talk at all about the product, but it was meant to just kind of continue their lead as opposed to create the lead that they already enjoyed. One kind of fun thing that I was involved in was we did the contest for iHeartRadio Music Awards, where users on Twitter and Facebook could tweet and post about which artist or which best collaboration they wanted to see perform at the iHeartRadio Music Awards. And we were really successful. We ended up getting more tweets than the Super Bowl. However, a lot of the once the contest started going, we started noticing that there was an inordinate amount of bot activity happening with certain artists. Like Pitbull was one of the prime offenders, and Justin Timberlake. Just a ton of different accounts that only followed him, only tweeted to different radio stations around the country, played the new Justin Timberlake song, and the artists with real followings that didn't have the bot armies behind them started dropping out. Like Drake doesn't have a bot army, and so he just stopped participating completely. So it was really interesting to see that behind the scenes. You're successful in terms of reaching your KPI, but then if you dig a little deeper, it's kind of meaningless.
So we just have a few more minutes. What I would love to ask all of you to do is any words of advice that you want to share. And they can be on any dimension. They can just be, hey, as budding potential entrepreneurs, because all of you have been entrepreneurial, but also just, whether it's tactical marketing or strategic marketing, whatever, just if you have a few sort of one or two things that you want to say here, if you do nothing else or remember nothing else, do this. Yeah, please.
I would just encourage that in all of your marketing and thoughts around it, that you lead with emotion first and product last, because that is what compels people about who you are and what you're doing and building, and they'll connect with that first before they even want to know what it is that you've done. And at TomboyX, we're very much an emotional brand, and we're storytellers, and we happen to sell underwear. So I think just keep emotion first and foremost.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that. I will say though, I've started companies that sold something that nobody wanted, and that did not last very long. So you can have a ton of passion about something. Make sure other people also have some passion for it. And that there's a real need there, which is what you guys are kind of exploring right now. But it's important to have a customer at the end of the day, because otherwise you just got a hobby.
Who's next?
So I'm also still pursuing my MBA, and I had a great session last night where somebody said, to create a map of your life where you are the only point of intersection between two worlds. And I felt it was really applicable to John's class, because it kind of reframes positioning as yourself, the person. Because at the end of the day, the companies that you create will come and go, but what will stay is your network. And if you are a compulsive networker and you like to sort of work in these communities, see how you can be the only, marketer that understands investing, or see if you can be the only healthcare professional that knows how to write a business plan, right? So kind of try to think of the different worlds that you play in and how you can make yourself that one point of intersection in those worlds.
All this stuff that we've been learning is true for your career, not just for the business that you're going to build, whether it's this session or all the other ones, including finance. So thank you.
So when I think about marketing and kind of the narrative and the stories that I've had to tell for products or for people or to investors, the one thing that all those customers and audiences never said to me is, could you make that more complicated for me, please? They're always looking for something to be more simple. How do I make this easier to understand? Fewer words are better. And so as you fall in love with your products and you work through all of this, you at the same time have to balance, how do I synthesize, get this down to its essence? Because only then, I believe, can you really do great marketing and understand what it is that you're trying to offer to your customer.
Hear, hear.
I would, to be a just
kick-ass marketer. Like if you want to take yourself above the competition, above everybody else, the secret weapon is being really comfortable with data. And when to leverage it, how to use it with product people, with other people at your company, how to use it to measure your campaigns. Like the brand creative stuff, I bet everybody here is amazing and can figure out creative and has a visual eye and is drawn to marketing maybe for that reason. Well, if you're in other disciplines, that's a different story. But being able to understand the actual like analytics and metrics behind why your marketing can do blank and how to show other stakeholders like what impact marketing is going to drive is going to be so important.
Okay, I want to thank all of you guys for all that perspective. I want to echo this because what I think is super interesting is the combination of perspectives all together add up to something. So on the one side of the spectrum, emotion, on the other side, data. And the answer is yes, not or, okay?
The data tells us what emotions we want to drive.
Yeah, and then the emotions help you make a decision. So I'm just going to close. You can look at this stuff on when I send you the slides, but don't forget XYZs 1, 2, 3s. It's hard work, right? So you're going to iterate on this over and over again. Those 1, 2, 3s and XYZs, as John said, is about simplifying. That's hard work. Making those decisions to simplify should be based both on your own instincts, but also on the data that drives it. Keep learning, keep doing this. Talk to people like this. Next week, okay? Send me your pitch in PowerPoint, please. There are some readings. Read them because they will actually help you in the pitch contest next week, okay? That pitch contest is going to be fun. And there will be prizes, okay? So that, not just cookies, they're going to be prizes. And just words to leave you with, this is all about persuasion. And then one last one, just in terms of marketing, don't blame the marketing department. The buck stops with the chief executive. On the other hand, focus on marketing because this is where the leadership has to come from. So don't denigrate marketing people, okay? Be one. Thank you. Have a good week.